Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the show. My name is Sal Vetri. If this is your first time here, welcome. We're going to be going through and looking at, even if it's not your first time here, we're going to be looking at this Showdown slate in the AFC Championship. The NFC one's not out yet. I'm not sure. They'll probably make one. But there's a big prize, $200,000 for the Showdown slate, the Chiefs and the Patriots. So we're going to break that down. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing if you like daily fantasy sports. Sports betting videos will also be popping up on this channel very soon. I have them all scripted out and ready to shoot. So probably in between the week of the Pro Bowl or in between that week before the Super Bowl where the Pro Bowl is played, we're going to get some sports betting videos out there. But right now we're going to be breaking down daily fantasy sports. Like this video, please. Comment below who you think is going to be the highest scoring, depending on when you're watching this, the highest scoring running back on the slate for a chance to win. If you do that before the games start, chance to win a $10 PayPal. And also consider subscribing. We're almost at 1,500. That's the goal by the end of the week. So just, if you like daily fantasy sports at all, if you've seen my content anywhere and you haven't subscribed yet, I want to give you that push, a little push there. Just please subscribe. So check out the description below as well. Before we get into this, I have a PDF that's completely free down there. I just want to try and hone my own writing skills and get some feedback from you guys. 9-page PDF on how to be more optimal by being contrarian. Set yourself up to win when the uncertain things happen, and the uncertainty things happen more often than not because the public thinks everything's going to happen just the way the media says it will. So make sure you check that out below. Some other things down there as well. But let's get into this Showdown slate, right? We've been doing the Showdown slate all year. Haven't made a Showdown slate video in a little while since the Thursday night games ended. Monday Night Football game ended a week before the season, so haven't made one in a little while now. But we know all season long that the Showdown slate is a ton of fun, right? And it's just extremely variant. You have to really just get super lucky on these one-game slates, really, unless you're entering a ton of lineups and you kind of feel like you have an edge. But down below, I talk about the Showdown slate in that PDF specifically in a little more detail probably. But there's a couple of things to keep in mind, that it's probably optimal to fade guys who are 80+% owned on these Showdown slates for a couple of reasons. I mean, we've seen it all year long. Guys like Zeke, guys like Derek Carr 1 week when they played the 49ers and the game script went completely the other way when the 49ers blew them out. Guys like Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette, when these guys approach that 80% owned, there is some merit in fading them, because if they don't do well, or even if they do decent but not as great as they should have done, 80% of the field is going to be on them. And if you don't need them to have that optimal winning lineup, or at least a high placing lineup, you automatically leverage yourself into that top 20% that's left, right? So you're automatically in the top 20%. You're probably automatically cashing if that person lays an egg. If they get injured even, that's also a possibility. Not something we ever root for, but also a possibility. So yeah, that's just one way just to keep in mind. And then just do things others won't. Play good players, but do things others won't. On these Showdown slates, that play good players kind of gets a little bit foggy, because we see almost every single week that there's just a random guy who catches 3 balls for 40 yards or falls his way into the end zone that is on those slates. So it's really lucky, but if you set yourself up playing optimally, fading the proper players on these slates more often than not, you should set yourself up in good positions. And again, that might not mean that you play 3 Showdown slates, one of them is going to hit, right? You might have to play 50 Showdown slates before one of them hits, but if you're being consistent and you put yourself in that position, eventually you're going to hit and it's going to pay off. So let's get into this one. So we have, obviously, when you're at this point in the playoffs, final 4 teams left, you have good players to choose from, right? So I'm interested to see the pricing here. Patrick Mahomes being the most expensive guy, that makes a lot of sense to me, followed by Tyreek Hill and Kelsey. So we have 3 Chiefs in a row before we even get a Patriot. This is actually very interesting. So we got over $10,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So for the captain spot, we have 8 guys over $10,000. If we look at their actual prices now, we've got only 3. So okay, over 9,500, we got 4. All right, so this is a slate that we might be able to work a little bit of cash with. If we come in, we try and check out. So at 6K is where the backup quarterbacks are. So there's a price drop off of $7,200 to $5,600 into kind of that like 3rd tier of players. It starts with Gronk. Sammy Watkins is down here, which is an interesting play. I think he should be highly owned in the main slate and probably highly owned on this slate due to just the way that he's being priced and the way that he played last week coming off of an injury. He played pretty well. But let's see what we can do here. So on this type of slate, again, this is my first look, so I haven't dove into it. These aren't going to be like final picks or anything like that, right? I'm looking at it for the first time. I've had people saying I've used your lineups and they don't work. I don't like to give anybody lineups or picks. I'm just giving you through my initial theory or just my initial work through. So Tyreek Hill's the guy who stands out to me, right? I'm somebody who's been on record saying that I don't play a lot of Tyreek Hill. The guy, he'll go off in like 50, or that's probably a little bit too high, but he'll go off in like 35 to 40% of his games. But when he goes off, he absolutely smashes, and you have to have him to have any chance of winning. He's done decent. Hasn't had that explosion game, 40-plus points like he did against the Patriots earlier this year, but he's done pretty good in the past 2 weeks, right? Over 24 points each week, a 30-burger in there. So there's nobody on the. So there's a little fact that we saw in our Facebook group. So make sure you jump in there if you're still watching this. Facebook group is loaded with great facts. This one was good. The Patriots play more man than anybody. Tyreek Hill against man absolutely smashes. Right, he did that last time against them. 2 times against the Patriots in their man defense. He's averaging 2 touchdowns, which is nuts. Over 2 touchdowns a game. 130 something yards a game. Again, that's a small sample size. You have to imagine Bill Belichick has seen that and he's like, we have to just stop this guy, whatever it takes. And that's where my little narrative comes in, is they're going to have to just stop Tyreek Hill, right? They stop Tyreek Hill, that opens up a little bit more for a guy like Travis Kelce, who I do think, again, he's the only tight end on the slate, not going to go under owned, but on a slate like this where you're choosing from just a certain game, I do think that Kelce at this price range, since he is pretty expensive, $10,000, could be overlooked because, yes, Kelce does have the upside, but Tyreek Hill and Patty Mahomes probably have greater upside. So do guys like Tom Brady, who are cheaper. And then when you get down to guys like Edelman and Williams, they also have that upside. Definitely Williams, and they're $1,000+ cheaper. So I think Kelce could be a guy who sees reduced ownership just based on where he's priced and who he's sandwiched between. So let's try and build a lineup. So Tyreek Hill is boom or bust. If you have him and he goes off, you have to have him. You probably have to have him in the captain spot. So let's see what we can do with that. It's going to be tough to fit a lot of guys in then, though. James White and Sony Michel. So I think these both guys are solid just on the main slate, and we'll get into that tomorrow. I'm going to do my full breakdown, but I think that James White, in the playoffs, he just becomes a different animal, right? I mean, we saw it. He scored 15. He caught 15 balls. It's not registered yet, but he caught 15 balls. I think a playoff record, just absolutely insane. After catching 13 or 14 in that Super Bowl game against the Falcons. So just an absolute nut. Sony Michel has the best matchup probably of the entire slate. 32nd ranked Chiefs DVOA rush defense. He's going to get the ball a lot, but this is the problem with Sony Michel for me, is this category right here, right? He got his first target and first catch in over a month of the season, but this is what everybody's going to see, right? And he played a great game, right? He against a good run defense, or a solid run defense. He had almost 36 points, 3 touchdowns, 130 yards. That's the thing, though. He has to get you 100+ yards and probably closer to 2 touchdowns, since he has no receiving floor to really smash value, right? If you had him in the captain spot and you played the showdown mode this past week, you probably did great. You probably automatically cashed because he got you 50+ points. But he has no receiving floor, so a guy like Damian Williams, who doesn't have to get you 24 carries on the ground, he can get you 15 and he can still smash at 35 points because he can catch 6 balls and get in the end zone in the air. So just a lot more versatility. I'm probably not going to be playing Sony Michel, although I do think he's in a great spot, right? At least in the showdown I won't play him, but I do think he's in a great spot. Let's try and fit James White and Damian Williams. So even if Spencer Ware comes back, I'm not too worried at all about a guy like Spencer Ware taking away from Damian Williams. They took Damian Williams out at the same time, and I've said this before. Patrick Mahomes came out in that last game, so they value him, obviously not as much as Patrick Mahomes, but they do have a lot of trust and value in him for taking him out at that exact same point. They believe he's an elite starter for them. They gave him the money to prove that. So Damian Williams, let's put him in here. We have 6.266 to play with, and obviously I want these guys, right? I'm fine playing Brady. This one I think is going to go under the total just because of the weather that's coming in there. But if not, I could see it going over. Edelman just getting peppered with targets. He had a tough matchup against Desmond King last week. He absolutely dominated it because he's getting the volume. It's a lot easier when you're getting the volume on a lot of these short passes, and the guy just went off, right? I mean, 151 yards. That has to be a career high for Julian Edelman. I didn't look into it. But look at this consistency, right? He's gotten over 15 points in... If we count that as 15, he's gotten over 15 points in every game but 2 this year. Has only gone single digits once on showdown slates. You want guys who can get you 15+ points, and if you have to pay for them, that's fine. So let's put Edelman in there, see what we can do. Now we have 2 players from each team, so if this is a game that's going to be high scoring, that's a pretty good balance. If we're going to game script it as it's just going to be back and forth, you do have pass catching running backs here, so why does that help? Well, that helps because they're game flow independent. Now James White isn't going to get the ball on the ground like he had none, and that's just kind of his role, especially in the playoffs. He's not going to get a lot of touches. But he was a wide receiver 1, right? Just missed a 100-yard bonus. Absolute wide receiver 1. Now, he's probably not going to see 17 targets, 15 catches, but he could very well see double-digit targets and 8 catches, and if he gets in the end zone, it's pretty much the same result, right? So we'll put him there. Julian Edelman peppered with targets. I like that. So a guy like Gronkowski is definitely interesting because his price is only $5,600 as well. But the guy's only caught more than 3 balls once out of the last 9 weeks. He has 3 or less catches 8 out of the past 9 weeks. He's on the field for like 93% of the snaps, 90+% of the snaps, so there's always upside there. There's always a great matchup against the Chiefs there. You have to just imagine, when is this guy going to be let loose like he was against Miami a little over a month ago? I just don't see it right now, right? And he had to catch every ball in that Miami game, although he did have 8 targets, which is great to see. He seems beat up in a cold weather game. That's a reason, like, I glossed over Brady at first. Cold weather game, 40-year-old, maybe a little bit more slow moving. Joints have to loosen up. I don't know. I'm just trying to build a narrative here. That's what you should be doing when you're playing these slates. You should be building narratives in your head, figuring out game flow, because that's how you set your lineups. You shouldn't just be playing players in that don't correlate. You should be saying, okay, if the Chiefs get out to a lead, but it stays a little bit close because Tyreek caught an 80-yard touchdown, or Tyreek catches a couple balls, because Tyreek had a bunch of targets last week, right? 13 targets. They were just looking his way the whole time. He should have had more. Mahomes missed him once or twice. Then the Patriots are going to have to come from behind by throwing the ball. James White, Julian Edelman. That helps Damian Williams getting a little bit more carries on the ground, but even if it stays close, he could still get some in the air. So if you're playing the Chiefs keep a lead and maintain that lead, how are they going to get that lead? It's probably going to have to go through Kelsey, Tyreek, and Damian Williams, right? If we can get Tyreek and Damian Williams, if we can get 2 of those guys, and Tyreek being the guy with the bigger upside, Tyreek being the guy who's absolutely blown the doors off of the Patriots and every type of man defense he's played, and he's doing it not just in the air, but also now they're giving him creative ways to get the ball in end arounds, also defense. You can correlate that with him getting a punt return, something like that. He's due for that, hasn't had it since week 1 of this year. It seems like he's way overdue. So there's definitely some plays down here, right? So let's see where we can go next. We kind of have the 2 biggest offensive weapons outside of Brady for the Patriots right now, right? James White, basically the wide receiver 2 out there behind Edelman, and then it's nobody else. I know Dorsett got in the end zone last week. I know he had a couple of targets, but I don't think this is going to be a Philip Dorsett show. I'll let his ownership kind of inflate because of last week. Chris Hogan could be interesting because he's still running the same amount of routes, and if he would have got in the end zone last week, he pretty much has the same game as a Philip Dorsett, besides a couple of yardage, about like a 20-yard difference. But Hogan's a decent play at 4,200. I think Sammy Watkins, like I said, he's going to be very, very highly owned, especially at 5,400, especially because he had 8 targets, caught 6 of those balls, and he's in this Chiefs offense. If we played him, though, do we have too much exposure to that side of the ball? Because you can come down here, you can go with Chris Hogan, and there's one lineup, right? That's a decent lineup build. You're getting all offensive players. I don't think you have to mess around with kickers here, so it's going to be a pretty high-scoring game. Even if it hits the under, it should still see 50 points. Defenses are always interesting, though, so let's go down. Let's see if we could do something with the Chiefs' defense. 3,200. I mean, they got D Ford out there. They got guys who are getting after the quarterback. Brady's a slow quarterback in a cold environment. Maybe he'll be a little bit more slower. So if you get a guy like the Chiefs' defense out there, now you're kind of building this Chiefs stack to say that the Chiefs are going to win. Again, I feel fine doing this because I think that Edelman and White are the guys you want to have exposure to. If you're not going to go after Brady, I'm fine not playing Gronk. I'm fine not playing a guy like Hogan if we don't have to. Now, what you're saying here is, do the Chiefs defense score more than Chris Hogan? And there's also another catch. The other catch and another good strategy, talk about this in that PDF. Make sure you're downloading it. If you're still watching at this point also, comment below in the description that you're still watching. I would just want to thank you for that you're still watching this, what, 10, 12 minutes into the video. So appreciate that for sure. Comment that below right now. Look forward to seeing that. But you're saying here, if you go Chiefs over Hogan, that the Chiefs are going to score more on defense than Chris Hogan. And that's tough for a guy who's on the field for 90% of the time, right? And all he needs is kind of a touchdown to outdo that. But the Chiefs defense has had moments where they can score, right? They're averaging around, I don't know, 8 points a game, which is pretty good compared to what Chris Hogan's average is. I mean, we don't want to look at recency bias, but if we want to look at the whole season, that's a pretty good sample size, right? Chris Hogan's definitely not averaging. Actually, he does have some bigger games, so he does kind of hit or miss. He probably is averaging around 8 as well, maybe a little bit higher, but he does have goose eggs in there. He does have goose egg upside. With Josh Gordon being out, it helps a little bit more for him. Cordell Patterson came back, seemed to hurt him a little bit based on the week before. So I think a big thing to do is to leave money on the table on these slates. That's definitely a big thing if you could build an optimal lineup. I think right here we have an optimal lineup that we're looking at, and we have $1,200 on the table, so it sets you apart, makes it hard for people to have that same lineup. So if you hit, you're not splitting it with 200 people. Instead, you're that person who's just like 0.5 points ahead, right? So this could be a way to do it. You can do Chiefs defense. I mean, if we want to look down at some value plays, I haven't looked at all. This is the first time looking. Really nobody down here. If you want to get up a little bit, Charkandrick West maybe does something, but if Spencer Ware comes back, no. They're all in on Damian Williams. Kelvin Benjamin was like a healthy scratch. He's just a bum. Wow, Chris Conley's only $2,000, but he's done nothing. Back-to-back goose eggs. Cordell Patterson, we mentioned, really not doing much out there. Cordell Patterson's like good for a 1-yard screen touchdown, like he's done like 3 or 4 times this year. Here's an interesting play. So Rex Burkhead at $3,000. He got in the end zone last week. Without that, he's absolutely nothing, right? He's dust. Everybody's going to be on James White. A lot of people are going to be on Sony Michel, inflated due to last week, even though he's in a good situation, so it's fair, but a lot of people are going to have that same misconception that, okay, he did it last week, he'll go for 102 plus touchdowns again, or 100 and a touchdown easily. That's usually not the case, especially if the Chiefs get out big. It's going to be very much James White and a Rex Burkhead game script, because those are the pass catching guys. James White, 15 catches on 17 targets. That's not going to happen again. If that doesn't happen again, you could expect this to go up a little bit. Maybe it's only 3 or 4 targets, maybe it's only 2 or 3 catches, but that helps, right? Especially at this price of $3,000. 4 attempts on the ground, we're not really looking too much at that, but he will get some goal line work, especially when Michel's off the field. So here we go. You can go with the Chiefs here. I mean, if you really wanted to go Burkhead, so you get a position player, you don't feel comfortable playing the Chiefs, and don't be scared that the Patriots are going to score 20, 25 points. I can't play defense. That doesn't matter. That literally matters not at all. I know it's going to reduce the shutout and the 0 to 6 and the 6 to 13, whatever it is, points, or 7 to 13. Don't worry about those coming off, because the way that you win on defense is sacks. Number one, Brady's a slow quarterback. They have a good pass rush, and they're probably going to be playing from ahead at some point in this game based on the Vegas spread. So sacks is one way. They can get in that predictive role like they've done all year. That's why D Ford's having a great season, because his team's ahead and they know that the other team's passing, so you can bring the blitz, or you can just bring more pressure. You don't have to worry about them going play action or something like that. So sacks is definitely one thing. Brady doesn't really make a lot of mistakes interception-wise, so that's one reason maybe you can go down a little bit. But really, again, all it takes is a punt return from Tyreek Hill. All it takes is a block punt, something crazy, right? So this is a position where we're playing good players kind of with a defense. It's hard to kind of say they're a good player because it's so variant, but we are setting ourselves up to be optimal. We're also getting correlation if you do go Chiefs defense with Tyreek Hill, and I think it's very smart if you're going to go Chiefs defense to have Hill in the captain spot, because if Hill returns a punt, chances are he's going to have a huge game, right? If he's getting 6 points, which in the captain spot's 9 points just off of a punt return, nothing on the offense, and he's getting you 9 points right there, and he's also adding then 6 points to the defense, so you're getting 15 points if you do that Hill correlation with the defense for a punt return if you have Hill in the captain spot. 15 points like that, like in an instance. I mean, if you ever checked your standings and you're like 9 points off the leader and you're like, oh, there's no way I'll ever catch him. There's no way I'll ever catch him. That's how you catch people. That's how you jump a bunch of people. So that's just one way to go about it. This is just one lineup build. I mean, again, first look, this isn't like my final lineup at all. Just me kind of looking at it. I mean, we could build other lineups, but I think that's a pretty good way to go. I think it's going to be hard to get like both quarterbacks. If you want to get Brady here, you're going to have to go pretty cheap at who you put in the captain spot. I think a viable guy just to start off would be, where is Sammy? Sammy at 8,100, because he's just going to be a little bit cheaper. Right now you have 69.6 to spend. You can get a James White in there. You can get a Damian Williams in there still. Now you have at 5,300. It's pretty tough. You're automatically leaving money on the table. But you can do something like this, right? So what you have here is you have 3 players from each side. You have 2 pass catchers for each team, because both running backs are pass catchers. And you're going a little bit cheaper with Sammy Watkins in the captain spot, just because that's what we can afford with this slate. Let's see if we go down to Burkhead here, what we can get up to here at 10,000. Nothing else. You can't get up to Sony Michel. Let's say we take out James White. Can we still get a good guy in the captain spot? Can we get like a guy like Edelman, who might go under-owned in the captain spot based off of his price? Yeah, it's going to be tough to swallow. Can't really get Edelman if we're going to go with both quarterbacks. Again, Brady might be a guy who's under-owned. If we want to talk about ways to set yourself apart, building an all Patriots lineup. Everybody loves the Chiefs. Everybody knows what the Chiefs can do. If you build a Patriots heavy lineup, so you go with a guy like Brady here, you go and you put a guy like James White in the flex, you still have a Julian Edelman, and now you run it back with some of these other guys who are a little bit cheaper. So if you go like Sammy Watkins, so he's cheaper, he's down here, so you can fill in the rest of these guys. So you get a little bit more money to spend, 7,600. Now you can kind of try and fit in Damian Williams, and then you have 6,800 to spend. You still have that gap. Gronk, whoever it might be, right? If you want to go Patriots, have you differentiate yourself. As of right now, I don't think that's as ideal, but most of the time what you don't think is ideal actually ends up winning, because these slates are so variant. So yeah, I think this is a good start to looking at these showdown slates. Who did we have here? We had Tyreek, who, again, Tyreek's boom or bust. If you're not going to be playing Tyreek in main slates, maybe leverage him. That's an idea probably for myself, since I don't usually play him in a lot of main slates. Leverage him in these other slates. So you get Edelman, you get him, Williams, you get James White. Then who do we have? We had Sammy. And then you kind of get to pick from here, right? You can go with the Rex Burkhead if you really want. Definitely probably differentiating yourself if you have Rex Burkhead and a guy like James White, and you leave money on the table. I kind of like that Chiefs D play though. So if we go Chiefs D here at 3,200, you have $1,200 left. And now you're kind of correlating it with Tyreek Hill. You're still getting good pass catchers and running backs, so a lot of upside on each side. We know how important pass catching running backs are in DraftKings due to PPR, especially this year. Damian Williams continues to be super underpriced. What is he's 8,400 and his captain price is 12.6. So I think he's still super underpriced at 8,400. I don't know how he's that underpriced. I feel like he should be above a guy like Tom Brady. But regardless, this is my first look at the Showdown slate. If you are still watching this, please subscribe right now. Hit the like button as well. Comment down below who you think is going to be the highest scoring running back on the slate, depending on when you're watching this. If the slate's already started, comment down below that you're still watching a second time. If you've made it all the way through 20 minutes now, that's very impressive. Thank you so much. That helps this channel move up the rankings a little bit more. So I appreciate it, guys. Check the description below. So final warning, you can download that free PDF to Be More Contrarian 9-page. I spent a lot of time on it, put a lot of work into it, so just let me know what you think about it as well. Join the Facebook group. Check out Draft Dashboard, some other things down below as well. So appreciate it, guys. My name's Sal. Best of luck if you're playing NBA during the week. Peace.